You're now tuned in to the Real Money Coach broadcast with host Tony Jackson, author of the book Increase, Protect, and Dominate Your Money. Get ready for winning tips and strategies to effectively manage your finances and learn the key principles of protecting and dominating your money. Now, here's author and host Tony Jackson.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to the Real Money Coach Show here on Praise 100.9, Charlotte's Inspiration Station. In every place that you get your podcasts. You know, we include in that Apple and Google and iHeart and Pandora and you name it, whatever platform you listen to your podcast. We are glad that you are with us on this morning. Today's theme of the show really is going to be about housing. It's going to be about housing. It's going to be about home ownership. That's what my special guest, Tanya Blanchard, who is the founder and CEO of Madison Chase Capital Advisors. Our interview is going to be about that. When we come on the show on Tuesday, we're going to continue to talk about housing, mortgages, affordable housing. And so today I want to deal with a couple of things up front here that I think are really relevant to brown and black families, African American, Latino, etc. And then on the third part of the show, I'm going to just talk a little bit about affordable housing. As I mentioned to you a couple times before, I'm really kind of focusing and picking apart this spending bill that was just passed in December by Congress, signed into law by President Biden. And so the first issue I want to deal with, the first thing I want to talk about, especially in light of this, as we know, we just came off of the MLK holiday, and there was a lot of things going on back in the 60s, right? One of the things that was going on was this thing called redlining. And what is redlining? Redlining is just really a practice that was done by the banks and by insurance companies where literally they took a red line and they drew around the maps and they said, if you are in this side of this red line, then that means we're not going to loan to you, or the terms are different, these types of things. So the question becomes, is redlining still taking place today? And let me tell you this, according to the Department of Justice, it is. And what has happened is that the Department of Justice has actually accused and hit a bank with a $31 million fine based on redlining. And this is a settlement between the California-based bank, City National Bank, and the Justice Department. $31 million. This is the largest redlining settlement in history. And so they're saying between 2017 and 2020 that City National Bank avoided marketing and underwriting mortgages in majority black and Latino neighborhoods in Los Angeles County. And so we said that other banks operating in those same neighborhoods received 6 times the number of mortgage applications than City National Bank did. So this issue is still out there. And as you guys, if you've been following me for any time, know that I've been somewhat critical of some banks, right? Bank of America and their new program. I talked about that a few months ago. Here a few weeks ago, I talked about Wells Fargo being hit with, $3.7 billion that they have to, with penalties and monies they have to pay back to their consumers. So as the Real Money Coach, am I anti-bank? No, I'm not. But I am anti-predatory lending. I am anti-redlining. I am anti these things that have been hurting our people in terms of access to capital, access to home ownership. And as we know, the prices of houses and the interest rates are all going up. And, we'll get a chance to unpack a little bit of that with our guests today, just a tad bit. But we're really going to dig into it because she's pretty passionate about the whole redlining issue. She's had some experiences in that herself. So we're going to talk about that. And, we've even seen it documented of how even getting an appraisal done on a house, we've seen stories on that. There was one story in particular I remember where the folks, when they were there, this was an African-American couple. I talked about it on the show a few months ago. He was a professor at Harvard, I do believe. And when his house was appraised and he was there, it appraised at, I don't know the exact number, but let's say $400,000. And then he had a neighbor friend come and be at the house for the second appraisal. And this time they took down anything that would indicate that they were African-American and that type of thing. And then that house, on that appraisal, appraised for like over $700,000. Another form of redlining. And so, this is still going on. I think that's why we need to deal with a lot of companies, black banks if we can, and mortgage companies and that type of thing. So, but it's just still out there, folks, and it's unfortunate, but it is. And so we just need to be mindful of it and make sure that, you stand up for your rights. And I'm glad that, the DOJ is going after some of these banks. In the event of Wells Fargo, it was the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. But let's just make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do. Let's make sure that they are not discriminating against, black and Latino families. Because, here's the thing about it is in about 20 years or so, we're going to be the majority. Black and brown families and people will be the majority in this country. And I think that for some folks that might be a little scary thought. But let's just make sure we're doing the right thing. Let's hold these banks accountable. Let's hold these insurance companies accountable. Let's hold them all accountable to make sure they're doing the right thing. So that's my take on it. And we're going to be right back with this interview with Miss Tanya Blanchard, the CEO and founder of Madison Chase Capital Advisors. You're listening to the Real Money Coach Show here on Praise 100.9, Charlotte's Inspiration Station.
I'm expecting my miracle any day now, any day now. I'm expecting my miracle any day now, any day now. I shall have what I need any day now, any day now. By faith is coming to me any day now, any day now.
Family, join author Tony Jackson for the Real Money Coach broadcast each and every Saturday morning from 7:30 a.m. to 8 a.m. on Praise 100.9. Mr. Jackson enlightens you on the real secrets of money. He'll also help you increase, protect, and dominate your money. You can also catch Tony Jackson's The Real Money Coach every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on Facebook Live and YouTube. Check out The Real Money Coach, Mr. Tony Jackson, every Saturday morning, 7:30 a.m. to 8 a.m. on Praise 100.9.
Hey, Tony Jackson here. You know me as The Real Money Coach. Listen, I want to encourage you to do something. And what I want to encourage you to do is email me your questions, your comments, or even suggestions of topics that you'd like us to cover on the Real Money Coach Show, you can email it to info@therealmoneycoach.com. Again, that's info@therealmoneycoach.com. Email us your questions, your comments, your suggestions, and we will answer those on air and also on our Facebook Live YouTube show on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So make sure you email us so that we can get that information that you want to know in your ears. I am Tony Jackson, the Real Money Coach.
And welcome back to the Real Money Coach broadcast with author and host, Tony Jackson.
Welcome back to the Real Money Coach Show here on Praise 100.9 in every place that you get your podcast. As I told you in the early part of the show, I have Tanya Blanchard with me, and she is a lady on a mission, lots of energy. She is CEO and founder of Madison Chase Capital Advisors. And Praise family, you are lucky because she is on the line. Tanya, how are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic, Tony. What about you?
I am doing wonderful. I'm doing absolutely great. And I'm so pleased that you're able to join us on the show today. So for our listeners that don't know Tanya Blanchard, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, my name is Tanya Blanchard. I grew up in New York, went to school in Virginia. I opened Madison Chase Capital Advisors right after my divorce. Well, not right after, but I got into mortgages, right after my divorce. And I really just like to help people. I feel I've always been in finance. I got my Series 7 in 63 when I was working at PaineWebber in New York. I've always worked at financial firms. And so actually I got into mortgages when I was right after I was divorced, and everybody thought I was crazy because although I was married for 10 years, I opted to do no alimony, no child support because I feel like money muddles things, and I knew I could take care of myself. So I was just like, yeah, let's just split expenses. And so I got into mortgages because first I was doing health insurance, and then I realized if I'm going to wait for a check, let it be a good check. So so a friend of mine had a mortgage company, and I just said, well, I know finance. I just had to learn, what a good faith estimate was, et cetera. And that's how I got into mortgages.
Well, I think what's so awesome about your story is because you said everybody thought you were crazy. That's how we know God is in something, right? When everyone around us is saying, what are you doing? But yet we got the download from God, and he tells us. And
yep.
And obviously you've been very successful. And I saw in your background that you had that Series 6 and 7 and that type of financial thing. But now it's into mortgages.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about where your office is and
sure. Absolutely. So right now, I live in Alpharetta, Georgia. My office is in Avalon, which is in Alpharetta. So I'm licensed in Georgia and Florida. Your timing is perfect because I literally emailed my compliance person and I said, I needed to get licensed ASAP in Virginia, DC, Maryland, and Texas. I love Houston. I went there and just fell in love, and I like DC, and I feel like I want to open up offices where I want to go visit. You know what I mean? Where if I've got to be there for 2 weeks, it's like, I'm fine. I love DC. Let's, good food, good people, et cetera. So my office, those are the two states that I do business in, and anywhere in the state. I don't have, even though I'm Metro Atlanta, I can do Augusta, Savannah. I could do anywhere in Georgia, anywhere in Florida.
So the only thing we got to do there is get North Carolina on that list, man.
I will get North Carolina on that list. Okay,
we got to get North. And what's really nice is that through the radio station here in North Carolina and through the podcast, we have people all over the country that have been following in the DMV, Georgia, and yep. et cetera. And so I know that your company has a model or a theme. Kind of tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So I believe in building generational wealth through real estate. I feel that there is no security for a child. Forget the parents. No security for a child than to know this is my house. Nothing like walking in from the school bus and knowing that this is my home. This is where I live, and there's no rent. It'll be quiet. Don't jump. If they paint on their wall, you might be a little perturbed, but they're not going to get in trouble. I just really feel like home ownership is just huge. And I think if people I always tell people, maybe it's not, you can't get your dream house, maybe, that's part of the reason we had such a, even with the recession, people were buying houses that they didn't really need. Do you really need a 3-bed, 3-car garage house? To me, ownership, as long as you own it, once you own it, then you can take it, then you can sell it and buy your next house. But the bottom line is if you're not paying your mortgage, you're paying somebody else's. So if you're renting and, I'll have people that say, well, right now, they love their house, but you're renting it. So you're paying, $3,000 for something that you don't own. And because you can only qualify for this house that is lower and it's not quite as nice as where you are, but you own it. And you've seen, Tony, in the last year, everybody if you didn't have at least 50,000 instant equity in your house, something was going on. Most people had, if they bought, as long as they bought before, I would say 2019, even the beginning of 2020, but 2019 and before, that equity accelerated fast.
You're so correct. And when you were talking about the child, Tanya, the thing that I thought about is that it's a sanctuary when you own your place, right? And here's the thing, and I'm a witness, and for even if people who bought in the middle of the pandemic, even when people were asking more for the asking price and all that kind of stuff, it was crazy. It was crazy market, right? Crazy market. We walked away with 70,000 equity, from the table, from the closing table. Yep. So, those are wonderful positions to be in. So interest rates, you're in the mortgage business. Yep. Interest rates keep going up. So tell us a little bit about that. And then, of course, folks, she's going to be the guest on our show on Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, Facebook Live and YouTube. We're going to unpack all this stuff real. We're going to give them some, let's say, some housing hacks. How about that?
Absolutely. I like that. HH.
So we're going to unpack that. We'll have, a good 45 minutes to do that. What would you tell someone just real quick as a tip?
Absolutely. First of all, I would say that everything is cyclical, and that the market is going to change. And you have to realize that interest rates at 3%, even 4% were artificial. They weren't real. You have to realize that interest rates only went that low because when Obama was in office, we were trying to stimulate the economy, the housing crash, the market crash, et cetera. So I don't get me wrong. I, just like everybody else in America, was so surprised how they almost doubled overnight. Now that, I can't get into, why they let them accelerate so fast, but they did. But if you said to me, you should still own. I tell anybody, I bought my house in 2006. My interest rate on my first was 6.5%, and my interest rate on my second was 10.5%. I bought my house for $249,000 in Alpharetta. You can't even look in Alpharetta for under 5 right now. Right. You can't, there's not. So you have to say, once again, the market is the market. So you should not let an interest rate deter you from buying a house, because the bottom line is, okay, maybe your buying power isn't as much because of your debt to income ratio, which is just how much money you owe versus your debt versus your income, but you should still always buy. There's never going to be a time where I say, don't buy. People, what are you waiting for? If interest rates go down, you can refinance. You know what I mean? If they don't, you still own. But when I refinanced to, this was years ago, I refinanced to a 15-year at 2.75.
This is awesome. This is awesome information. Listen, we can't give it all to them this morning, right? We got to leave a little teaser out there so that people dial in on Tuesday. But listen, I'm talking to Tanya Blanchard of Madison Chase Capital Advisors. Listen, dial in on Tuesday at 8 p.m. and on Facebook and YouTube, and you'll get the full dose of what you just got a sample of. I'm excited, Tanya. I can't wait until Tuesday. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Oh, my pleasure. I can't wait to talk to everybody on Tuesday. Thank you so much for having me, Tony. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. You're listening to the Real Money Coach Show here on Praise 100, Charlotte's Inspiration Station, and wherever you get your podcast.
Like a ton of bricks, it all fell. Every day going through hell. My back was against the wall, and my problems, they look 10 feet tall. Ooh, I have to reach way down deep in myself and remember I had power there, and tell myself it's not that easy. No, I'm not that easy. I'm not that easy to break. No, I'm not that easy to break.
Hey, Grace family, join author Tony Jackson for the Real Money Coach broadcast each and every Saturday morning from 7:30 a.m. to 8 a.m. on Praise 100.9. Mr. Jackson enlightens you on the real secrets of money. He'll also help you increase, protect, and dominate your money. You can also catch Tony Jackson's The Real Money Coach every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on Facebook Live and YouTube. Check out The Real Money Coach, Mr. Tony Jackson, every Saturday morning, 7:30 a.m. to 8 a.m. on Praise 100.9.
Hey, Tony Jackson here. You know me as the Real Money Coach. Listen, I want to encourage you to do something. And what I want to encourage you to do is email me your questions, your comments, or even suggestions of topics that you'd like us to cover on the Real Money Coach show. You can email it to info@therealmoneycoach.com. Again, that's info@therealmoneycoach.com. Email us your questions, your comments, your suggestions, and we will answer those on air and also on our Facebook Live YouTube show on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So make sure you email us so that we can get that information that you want to know in your ears. I am Tony Jackson, the Real Money Coach.
And welcome back to the Real Money Coach broadcast with author and host, Tony Jackson.
Welcome back to the Real Money Coach show here on Praise 100.9, Charlotte's inspiration station, and every place that you get your podcast. As you can see from that interview with Tanya Blanchard, she is a lot of energy. I think we're really going to unpack some things. And again, why is that important? You know, home ownership, we feel like, is one of the four pillars. We talk about the four pillars of intergenerational wealth transfer, and that being, you know, money management, talking about, you know, your credit, your budget, your spending, your debt load, those type of things. And then the second pillar is having proper insurance and investments. The third pillar is real estate. And then the fourth pillar is business development. And because she was, in the real estate market, I think, and she's so passionate about home ownership, I think it's important for us to kind of unpack some things. Like I talked about in the beginning of the show, we will deal a little bit on Tuesday at 8 p.m. on Facebook and YouTube, the redlining issue, and she'll share one of her experiences that she had as a lender or as a loan officer as far as that goes. And as promised and as advertised, I am still going through this spending bill, this final fiscal year 23 spending bill passed by Congress, signed into law by President Biden. And as I mentioned in the previous shows, this is over a 4,000-page spending bill, budget, etc. And I want to deal with one of the things on it because I think we talk a lot about housing, but I'm particularly concerned about something called affordable housing, because I know that there's a lot of houses out there and they're, expensive. The houses and prices have gone up and all that type of thing. But what about affordable housing? And this is what was part of this bill was investments in homeless prevention and affordable housing. The legislation provided $3.6 billion for homeless assistance grants, which was a 13% increase. And that should serve more than 1 million people who are experiencing homelessness. And if you live in any major city or even smaller cities now, we see a lot of homeless people. And so, this bill is actually going to put some money towards that. Now, also as part of this package and as part of the spending bill is a $6.4 billion to the Community Development Block Grant. And what that is about it's about providing funds economic community development funds for low and moderate income areas. So again, they're increasing that spending by more than, $1.6 billion. And then it puts $1.5 billion in the Home Investment Partnership Program, which could lead to the construction of more than 10,000 homeowner units that are affordable. And so these are the types of things that are in there. Most of that is going to be handled by HUD. So HUD will be kind of spearheading that and making sure that these monies are spent in a way that can help people who who thought home ownership was out of the question for them, to make it possible. And we know, and we'll talk more about it with Tanya on Tuesday, but you got FHA loans, that are 3.5% down. And so what we want to do and what we're prayerful is that these changes and these additional monies that are in this bill will help people. There's also things in it like rental assistance, and some of the other details are in that bill in terms of, even providing public housing, the homelessness, as I talked about. But, we're all about home ownership. And if we can help people move towards home ownership, that's what is important. When we think about it, when we bring it down to a local level, there's also some things that are happening here in Charlotte, Mecklenburg County, and I'm sure wherever you live, hopefully there's programs going on there as well. And so, there's a couple things in terms of, there's a $50 billion million below market loans to finance affordable housing developments. $11 million invested in new proposed housing opportunity investment fund, which will assist affordable housing projects in financing to execute those viable projects. $2.5 million allocated to economic mobility program grants over the next 5 years, and $7.25 million worth of land that has been donated to make affordable housing possible. Because actually, we need some place, and if you're around a city like Charlotte that is growing, it's like, where are you going to put additional housing? And so it's really cool that part of what's going on here locally from the mayor's office, Mayor Lyles, is, the land that's being dedicated to affordable housing. And so take advantage of this, man. Take advantage. If you this is what I would love. I would love to see people who maybe never thought home ownership was possible for them to get into a home. And even as Tanya was talking about, you may not even buy your dream home. And sometimes we may even be renting a place that might be a little nicer than what we're buying, but you own it. You own it. It's your sanctuary. And as she talked about, even your kids get off the bus walking into a home that you own versus one that you rent. Believe me, they know the difference. They know the difference. And we need to tell them the difference. And so we're looking forward to unpacking even more of this on Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on YouTube and Facebook. So that's my time, y'all. I want you to have a great weekend, and we'll see you Tuesday. This is The Real Money Coach on Praise 100.9, Charlotte's Inspiration Station.
We hope you've enjoyed the Real Money Coach broadcast with author and host Tony Jackson. We encourage you to utilize today's strategies and principles to manage your money in the most effective and winning way. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to send us an email, TonyJacksonAgency@gmail.com, or you can reach us on all social media platforms. And if you would like a copy of Tony Jackson's book, Increase, Protect, and Dominate Your Money, log on to www.therealmoneycoach.com. Until next week's empowering broadcast, God bless.